Right now, I'm currently at Steel Wool Studios headquarters, sitting with Jason Topolsky from Steel Wool Studios. Say hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
I'm gonna be that
And
guy.
today we're going to be doing an interview about all things Steel Wool, all things Steel Wool FNAF games, and it's going to be really good. So if you want to see this interview, there's a lot of juicy things in here. We just filmed it. And there's also Circus Baby in the middle. So let's get started with the interview. Here we go. Hi.
Check.
Thank you so much
Hi,
for
everyone.
being here.
Because there's 3 cameras, and I'm like,
There's so many.
I'll say hi to these guys and this guy.
Thank you so much for being here. Like, this is seriously a dream come true for me. But today we're going to be doing an interview with Steel Wool Studios. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching already. I know this is something that doesn't really happen often. So it's really an honor to be doing this. And hello to Baby as well.
Atreyu.
Atreyu.
Yeah.
Regular sauce. Crazy. Amazing.
He's so amazing. He's so good.
Oh, yeah.
Everything that he does. This was another one that we had at PAX as well.
But yeah, I'm so excited. Let's get started. Okay. When did you first hear about FNAF? Like, did you hear about Scott's games when they were coming out?
Well, I didn't know about the ones before FNAF until later.
Okay.
You know, because, I mean, Scott had like 30 games by the time he did the first FNAF.
Right.
But I was working at Telltale Games at the time, and there was a producer that I worked with named Chris Schroyer. Really neat guy. He had this cool, like, pink mohawk and everything. And he knew that I loved horror. And he came up to me. He's like, "Okay, this game just came out. You need to get it." I was like, "What?" It's like family fun center horror, like Chuck E. Cheese. You should check this out.
Really?
And then I grabbed it and downloaded it, and I was playing it.
Oh, you played it like when it came out? No way.
Yeah, because of Chris. Chris was one of those like.
Wow.
He was always on top of like. You know, what everybody might want,
right?
What everybody might want to see, and he'd let everybody know, "Oh, this is totally in your wheelhouse," and give everybody,
gosh.
And that's when I heard about it, and it was fantastic. You know,
wow.
I played it at work.
Oh, you played it at work?
I was playing
on
at
the
work.
clock?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
And Telltale closed, so they're not gonna get me now.
Do you have like a favorite FNAF?
Favorite FNAF game?
I mean, I guess of Scott's.
Yes, of my favorite one. It's so funny. I really like the Pizzeria Simulator.
Yeah.
I love everything that he had done before that, and each one's so unique and different. But I always liked Scott's sense of humor.
Oh my gosh.
You
Helpy.
know, and then we get to Helpy. Yeah.
Yes. Helpy's humor is so good in that game.
Well, and it's just filled with it. All the descriptions of, you know, all the different things that you can fill your pizzeria with.
Yeah.
Where it feels like a sim game, but at the same time, you're still playing some classic FNAF. I just think he did a great job. He took a big chance. He took a big chance on it. It was really neat.
It was a lot different than the other ones.
Yeah.
It was taking a big chance for sure.
And I think he did that a lot with his originals. Everyone had something so unique.
Right.
And you'd follow that path, and it's like, cool. And he broke out of a pattern, and he tried something very different. I thought it was cool.
But yeah, there's a different mechanic in every game. It's really cool. It's really cool. But now you're making your own FNAF games. Kind of. You're part of the team.
With Scott.
Yeah right. With Scott, of course. Yeah. What comes first when making a game? Is it like story? Do you think of like the mechanics of the game, like setting? What comes first in your mind?
Really, the first thing when we hit any new title is a high concept. What do we want this game to be? And we work that out with Scott. So we work on this, come to a consensus. This is what we want the game to be. And then every one of them's been a little different. Sometimes we'll just go straight into script. Just write first pass, a bunch of dialogue. You know, what characters are we going to have? What kind of situations do we want to be in? Other times we'll have, hey, we don't have these people available because they're working on another project or on the previous project as they're finishing up. And we might start the next one while we're wrapping up. You know, like while we're working on Help Wanted to start on Dreadbear, which is the kind of thing where it's like we just started to get in the next ones. And then, you know, 2 or 3 of us will start while everybody else is finishing up. And so we get in this pattern of, well, we don't have our sets people. As soon as they come on, then they'll start building all these like cool white box sets and everything. Or, you know, who do we have when?
Right.
And as people are available, you know, sometimes that drives our schedule.
Right. So what about Help Wanted? Like, what was the first thing that you did, like, you thought of in Help Wanted? Was it the story or like...
The original Help Wanted, we only had like I think we had 7 people, and by the time we finished Help Wanted, we had like 12 people working on it.
That's crazy.
So 12 or 11 people. I don't remember. I'm old. It was 11 people. But we started that saying, hey, we want to make the original FNAF 1 in VR. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing. That was the thing that started it and sold it.
There was no like tapes, glitch trap. It was just remaking FNAF.
It was make FNAF 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was, and that's when we met Scott, and we, we got the deal with Scott, and we had done, here's part 1, and we're like, well, because he really wanted to make part 1 VR.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we're gonna also do part 2.
Yeah.
And let's do part 3.
Yep.
And let's do what we can for part 4.
Yep.
Without it being, so tied into sound.
Right. Right.
Because in VR, everything is just way more impactful.
Oh my gosh.
Way more horrifying.
Oh my gosh. The plush trap minigame for me, like still to this day, I can't do it.
It's so much fun.
I can't do it. So like when FNAF Help Wanted came out, take me back. What was it like having so many people like dig into your game? Is that like the first time you've experienced something like that? Like dig into your game for like lore, secrets, like trying to figure everything out. Were you expecting that?
For games, we had never gone through that before.
Really?
Yeah, I had gone through some of that when I was at Telltale. Because there were big fans that were like reading into the stories episode to episode.
Yeah.
Like Tales from the Borderlands, Minecraft story mode, and you'd get like fan theories and people digging into stuff while we were working on 5 episodes at a time.
Yeah.
And when it came to Steel Wool, we didn't have that kind of experience at all. That was new to everybody. Coming from feature, we'd have a lot of people that were just hanging on to everything that the characters were doing, like Toy Story stuff or monsters, but not quite like lore. There weren't a lot of big secrets.
Right. Right.
So it was really unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it fun just like sitting down watching theory videos?
It was.
Yeah.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I bet it was.
I remember. I very specifically remember watching Daco.
My gosh, yeah.
Because he got to play. He got to play when we had a demo at a Sony booth at PAX East.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I want to say it was him and a couple other guys. I want to say that maybe Razbowski was there.
Really? I
apologize if I've got it wrong, but I know there were a couple other people there, and there were lines, and he got in. Couldn't show any footage, but we got some reactions.
No way.
And so we're like, oh, hey, this Daco guy, look, he got in.
Did you know of his YouTube channel before?
We did.
Okay.
Because we were watching some of that stuff, as we were working on the IP. It's like, hey, the YouTuber base is huge.
Yeah.
Lore videos, all this stuff. Like, we really needed to get into it and expose ourselves to everything.
Right.
And a couple of guys in our crew were already really into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Into Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes, and the lore videos, and so they were already on top of that. Like,
wow.
Phil is one of the guys that comes to mind.
Wow.
It was like,
and there was only 12 people or 11 people at the time, so that's crazy.
He was one of our first employees in the studio too.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like straight out of art school.
Wow.
Yeah. He's really cool. You'd like him a lot.
So Steel Wool was really small,
it was really small.
So like, what was your goals with Steel Wool when you first started, and how did that change when FNAF came into the picture?
It was funny when Steel Wool first started, it was a group of there were just 5 of us, and we all worked together at Pixar Animation Studios.
That's crazy.
And
working on like The Incredibles and Ratatouille
everything.
And Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I was there for 14 years. And some of the other guys, like one of our other co-founders, he was there for, I think, at least 20.
Wow.
Long time. But we loved games. I've always loved games. And we wanted to do a side project. And so you could do a carve out. And what you do is you'd propose your idea. Like, let's say you're in the story department. You're like, oh, I'm doing comic books, and there's, Comic-Con coming up.
Okay.
They would propose their idea. The studio would buy off on it and say, yeah, you can make this.
Huh.
And you can sell it, and go make your comic and sell it at conventions.
Okay.
Like, cool.
Yeah.
And so everything was above board. It was all like, there weren't going to be any legal issues.
Right.
And so we pitched this idea for a game called Fly Hunter, which is a side scroller.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was pretty funny. It had like 20 minutes of cutscenes. And we were just experimenting. None of us had made a game before, right? And we just had fun with it.
That's awesome.
And that's where we started. And so our goal was always, we wanted to just have fun and make fun games.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And I assume the goal's still the same.
Yes.
Yes. So I want to kind of go game by game.
Yeah.
So let's start with Security Breach. I mean, we just did Help Wanted. Let's do Security Breach. What did you learn from making Security Breach? Because that was a big step up for you guys. Like, you didn't have many people, I'm assuming, when you started making Security Breach. So what did you learn from that game?
You know, it's funny because I think people wouldn't guess the number one lessons we learned from Security Breach, but we started right before COVID.
Yeah.
Like, we only had like 12 to 20 people.
12 to 20 people working on Security Breach.
Yeah, in person.
Wild. Yeah.
And so like Evan, who's one of our creative directors, he was an animation director for a long time. The two of us were in a room working on ideas for like, always knew we wanted to do this Pizzaplex. Right? And we were talking about that with Scott, and it's like, oh, it'd be fun to do a big game.
Right.
Like a non-VR game.
Right.
You know,
and you guys have never done something like that before, right?
Right. Fly Hunter was the only what we call flat game that we did.
Right.
But after Fly Hunter, when we all kind of broke off from Pixar and we started doing our own things, I went to Telltale for a couple years to get like some practical game experience, you know, in a studio.
Yeah.
And I love Telltale. This is so much fun. I really enjoyed it there.
Good. They make great games. Or made great games. Yeah.
Evan and I, we went in one of our conference rooms, you know, Post-it notes, take out all our little note cards. What are locations that we would have? So like, here's all locations, like a restroom, this, how about a chica maze, like a mirror maze. It started as a mirror maze, and then
a mirror maze.
Yeah. And then, you know, we told our engineering guys, they're like, mirrors. Right? Like, okay, how about it's more like fruity maze, fruity maze. Right. And then so we started making all these locations based on the characters that were going to be there. Everybody had their own zones.
Yeah.
And we made this big flat map on a table.
Yeah.
And we started working on white box sets. And then as people were becoming available, we were doing medical stuff at the same time.
Okay.
And so while we were getting ready in our pre-prod, people were finishing up some VR medical apps and things.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Really,
I didn't know that.
Really pretty amazing stuff.
Wow.
So as people came available, you know, then we started building the set and we started building the models and everything. And then COVID happened. And then for the first time, we all had to go. We didn't know how long it was going to last.
Yeah.
Remote. Mm-hmm. We shipped everybody's computers out to them. Everybody had to work at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was
big change.
Really hard to like get around.
Right.
You know, how do you do when we were doing, you know, like Help Wanted 1, we could all watch somebody play in a headset and then snicker at them through a window and be like, hey, come over here. You know, they fell over. They hurt themselves. You know, it's like, they're crying. Right. So we couldn't get any of those responses for seeing how people would react to it.
Right.
You know, it was really interesting.
It's a big change. And I think people don't think about that a lot when they think of like when making a game and specifically Security Breach. But that
was really hard.
Yeah.
And then since then we're still 100% remote. We have
which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Like you can hire people from everywhere now. There's a bigger pool of people to choose from, really talented people all over the place. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a good and a bad thing for sure.
It is. We've definitely learned how to hone that skill.
Right.
Distance.
So how did you take what you learned and implement that? Like what you learned from Security Breach and implement it into your future games?
As soon as we were able to start meeting in person again and getting on flights and everything, it was so important to have big kickoffs, all the leads,
right?
You know, all departments, all leads, everybody to get on the same page.
Yeah.
You know, and not just be on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And then we'll do like day-long presentations, you know, people showing what they're working on, get everybody on board. Like, here's what pre-prod has done up to this point. Here's the story to this point, you know, wherever we're at. And then really get everybody involved in a nice, fun, in-person kickoff.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Which
helps a lot with the development. Yeah, right.
Yeah, invaluable.
I think this is a really interesting question. Was Security Breach always the name of Security Breach? Did it have a different title?
It had, you know, it's funny. I don't remember what our code name was for it because I'm old and that was a long time ago. But when we were talking with Scott about it, we had we had a list, like we made like a spreadsheet
Okay.
of potential names.
Right.
And I want to say that we had this list of names of what it could be and what it could be and what it could be. And then I think Scott was like, how about Security Breach? It was like,
Really?
he
It
did
was
that
Scott's idea.
Yeah, like he did that for Dreadbear as well. We had all these names for what it could be and what it could be. And he was
Wasn't like Franken-Freddy?
Franken-Freddy was a name
Rise
for
of Franken-Freddy or something.
that was one of the names we were playing around with.
Yeah.
Right, on this list of names.
Right.
And he was like, Dreadbear. What a Dreadbear. And we're like,
Wow.
that's it. That's awesome. Yeah,
Wow.
we're doing that. That's the one. That's
No way.
good. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the other names for Security Breach or no? Can you throw one out there?
I'm trying to. I can't remember.
That's
it's like
all
one of
right.
those. I'd have to pull up the doc.
That's all
I
right.
want to say it was like 50 different names,
Wow.
and none of them were as good
As Security
as Security Breach. So I don't even
Wow.
remember the other ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love Security Breach, and I have so much fun
thank you.
theorizing about that game. Like, especially like the environments. Like something I do in my videos is look at all of the environments in Security Breach, see what stories they're telling in each one. I love doing that. So like, how much thought was put into like the environments in Security Breach? Because there's so many little details. There's so many little details.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
When getting into Security Breach and the set being a character, right? The set is its own character,
Right.
And it really is in all of the Freddy's games. Every one of the pizzerias is its own character, and you want to like honor that moving forward. And looking at Scott's, it's like, hey, every time that there's a new Freddy's and there's a new location, the bedroom is its own character versus Freddy's 2, Freddy's 2 versus Freddy's 1, right?
He's so good at set dressing. It's crazy.
I mean, the Freddy's 3.
Yeah.
Like there's so much going on there with the museum, and it's like, this is so cool.
Yes, I heard this explanation of like FNAF games. It's like you're not seeing something happening in the moment. You're not seeing the pizzeria in its prime. You're seeing a snapshot, like a piece of history, like it frozen in time.
Right.
And it's telling a story in its own way through the environments. So like with Security Breach, I bet that was a lot of fun to do that with Security Breach.
And one of the big things in Security Breach is that, so when I was a kid and we had like Chuck E. Cheese, right? In Tacoma, Washington, I think I've said this in maybe another interview somewhere, is we had a 2-story Chuck E. Cheese, right? With a balcony that went around and everything and like ball pits. All our soccer parties were there.
Yeah.
It was like kids' birthdays were there. And it was cool and it was fun and we loved it and it wasn't creepy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
When we're there as kids, it wasn't creepy.
Right.
Right. I'm sure some of the parents were like, oh.
Yeah.
But it was fun and it was super cool and we wanted to go there. And one of the things we really wanted to do with Security Breach was take a moment where there was a heyday. At that time in the Pizzaplex, Freddy, the gang, everyone is still like polished.
Yeah.
And you would want to, you'd look at it and you'd say, I can see how a parent would want to bring their kid to a place like this.
Right.
Look how cool that is. Look at all the stuff they've got.
Yeah.
And of course, I want to go somewhere that has putt-putt and laser tag and go-kart racing. And, it's like, everything you could think of for a family fun center. Yeah. Like the ultimate, what's your dream fun center? What would that be?
Right.
And it's not ruined yet. It's not in disrepair. Which, there's a lot of people that didn't like that. But that's why when we get into ruin, that's the flip. Right. Is we want to see it in a state where, oh yeah, I could see people going here. Yeah. And it's popular again. Yeah. They've gone through what Fazbear's gone through. Yes. And now it is popular. And it's like, Freddy's not a bad guy. We like Freddy. Right. Freddy's helping a kid. Right. And to see that as a contrast. Yeah. From some of the originals. And then to get to the creepy, broken down, our shattered versions throughout. And that was one of our goals there, was to make it just this incredible set. Oh, yeah. And
there's so many little stories like throughout.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of hints to little things that I've talked about in videos. But it's awesome. It's awesome. So going along with the environments of Security Breach and like the theory videos and looking into every little thing, Brian, the design director, I believe, at Steelwool, in a previous interview, said that Freiermuth, yes, his favorite Easter egg in Security Breach was something that no one has found yet. And I think, first, do you know what that is? Do you know what it was? You know what it was?
Yeah.
What was it?
And it was at the time. You
At the time.
all found it.
We found it?
Yeah, you all found it.
Okay, wow. So
Yeah,
we
you
won't
guys
know
all
what it
found
is.
No, it was, nobody was talking about, there were certain things people weren't talking about at all.
Right.
And one of them is they really weren't talking about, the sewer and the things in the sewer.
Yeah.
And the parts and the notes. And, at the time
multicolored notes.
Yeah. At the time, people weren't talking about the little Post-its down there. Not Post-its because
Really?
it's Post-its.
Yeah, they're like pieces of paper.
Yeah.
It's weird. But
Yeah. At that time, nobody was talking about it.
interesting. So it's something down there.
Yeah. And then you've talked about it in videos too.
I talked about it.
Yes,
I found it.
Yeah. There's a lot
Wow.
of things that you've talked about where like, no, nobody's even commenting on this.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'll watch a video. I'll watch one of your videos like, John did it. John got it.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, I'm keeping that in. You hear that, everyone? I'm just kidding.
Well, that's
but
that's one of the reasons I like watching YouTubers. And
Yeah.
I love watching yours.
Oh,
You know?
thank you. Thank you.
Daco.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Matt Pat.
Yeah,
Like it was
yeah.
so great watching everybody to see like who's close, who's
Right.
got this, who
Right.
doesn't.
And does it still feel as exciting as it did when Help Wanted dropped? Like when you were first watching theories and stuff like that?
It's deeper than that now.
Okay.
Because at that time it was like a shock.
Right.
It's
But
like,
then-
oh wow, look at
Right.
everybody.
To go into that a little bit, are you ever shocked that no one has picked up on something that you were trying to put out there? Like, it reminds me of like putting the yellow paint in video games. Like, do you put the yellow paint on the ladder to show the audience like, hey, there's the ladder, climb it up?
Yeah.
Are you ever surprised that it's like, I'm so shocked they're not picking up on this little story bit or this little thing? And
Sometimes. Yeah,
Really?
sometimes I am. Like, I know it's like the yellow. It's like, that's just good design.
Right.
It's like, that's just good design. And
Right.
as we had been, adding and filling out our design team, and we're like, in VR,
Yeah.
how does somebody know they can climb something? Well, they're gonna have to throw some yellow spike tape on it.
Right. Does seeing how people theorize about your games, specifically maybe Security Breach, does that change how you go about the storytelling in future games?
You know what's funny is I'll make these comments where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing in YouTuber bait. People are gonna
YouTuber
love
bait?
it. Oh yeah, I have
Oh my
YouTuber bait. I'm like people
Stop.
are gonna love this.
Don't
and I'm like,
do that.
I'm gonna put this thing in here and people are gonna love this. And then and then if people don't say anything about it, I'm like, oh, I thought it was being like really obvious, but maybe it was being too subtle.
Oh my
know?
gosh, that's terrible. But I love it because we'll never know what's YouTuber bait and what's not.
No, you would never know.
Yeah.
It's
My
just,
gosh.
There's just those things where it's like, it's part of the story. It's part of the lore. It'll be part of the world.
Right.
And it's one of those things like, oh, we should do this thing because people will love it.
You can't
know?
give me an example of one.
No.
Okay, that's fine. I get it.
Yeah,
I get
there's
it.
some. Yeah,
It's got to remain a mystery. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Even me, like, I don't want to know everything. You know, it's
you figure out a lot of stuff, which is great. You do.
Oh my
which
gosh.
is really nice.
Oh.
And I really like that. I
Oh.
mean, nobody's ever gonna figure out everything.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
There's no way.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow. So, like,
there's still more games to come. So
is there? Anyways, so about the little details scattered throughout.
I mean, I don't think there's any secret that we love working with Scott.
You guys work well with him. I
We
think.
really like working with
Yeah,
him, and
he's awesome.
we will continue to work with him.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that a little later.
Okay.
Stay tuned. We'll talk about future things later.
Okay.
So about all of the Easter eggs and details and everything in Security Breach, how do you keep track of everything? Like, I feel like there's so many little stories, so much lore, so much stuff in your games. Like, do you have a big document? Do you have like a notebook? Like,
So anything that's script, right?
Yeah.
All in the script, right? So I have everything in the script. Any of like the notes that you find, I have documents of the notes that we find,
Yeah.
And then one of the things that I do personally that nobody will ever see is the point of view. So
Okay.
you might have found a note
Yeah.
from somebody talking about like, oh, my kid cried. And, it's like,
in Security Breach.
in
Yes.
Security Breach. And there's a name. And I'll have
Right.
like names of characters that have posted these things or
Right.
put them in, or that one's like anonymous.
Right.
It's like someone came in. But other ones, it's like, but nobody will ever know the names because they're not meant to be seen. It's just there are points of view.
Interesting.
You know,
Interesting.
it's like, oh, what was this person's role? There's like a thread. There's a thread of some messages that if you kind of put them together,
Right.
you know,
Like I made a video about like the staff meeting. Like there's this
right,
big staff meeting storyline, and what
right,
is that about, and where did it take place? And
right,
I mean, don't confirm anything, but
right,
I think that's very interesting. People should look into
right.
that. Like
That
there's
kind of
so
stuff.
many little stories. Like there's a
Yeah.
cop showing up at the Pizzaplex. There's the person who ordered
Yes.
lasagna, but they don't serve lasagna or something like chicken parm or
Right.
is like
Right.
but the staff bots like, you know,
Right. Exactly.
there's a lot of little storylines.
Exactly.
Do you think there's I mean, I guess you would know. Do you know if there's any mysteries about Security Breach that have not been solved yet?
Yes.
There are.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh
for sure.
no, this is gonna send me on a hunt. So there's things in the game that you purposely put there that no one has really picked up on yet.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the thing is that there are things that are, you know, maybe not paid off yet.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh.
there are things that may happen in the future, and then things might make sense. Like, do you ever watch Gravity Falls?
Yeah.
Okay. Like Gravity Falls, there's all these clues throughout the whole series.
Right.
And then when you see it happen later, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that was in episode 2.
Right.
Or, oh my God, there's a picture of Bill. Oh, there's Bill is in the window. You know, it was there the
Yeah.
whole time, right?
Wow.
And as people were figuring out the show, it's one of my favorites, one of my daughter's favorite shows too.
It's a great show.
Yeah, it's so good.
So going off that,
Yeah.
do you think that every question in Security Breach will have an answer one day? Or do you think there will be like mysteries forever? Like that you'll just keep.
I think there will be mysteries forever.
Wow.
You know,
It's about audience interpretation, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you can come up with questions about everything in the world.
Right.
You know, whatever room you're in right now. You know, you can look around and say like, why is this color?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody-
Oh, don't say that. Don't talk
No, but
about
you know
colors.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey, so these chairs are yellow.
Yeah. Why are they yellow?
Why are they yellow? Somebody made them yellow.
But you're thinking so
somebody-
much about this, but not about the giant baby head
Right.
sitting between
Right.
us.
And I
Yeah.
know why that's there.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's like,
Oh.
I know why that's there. That's,
Yeah.
But these yellow chairs,
Right. Why are they
who,
yellow?
who specifically picked them and why? Why are they here in the studio? You know, is there something more to it? Where did they come from? I don't know.
So
There's
you're
like-
referencing maybe something like this in Security Breach.
there's so many possible questions that you may never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I like it that
Yeah.
way. I think I'm content with that.
Yeah.
I think audience interpretation is really fun. Like
Yeah.
I made a video recently about like how you can kind of make a theory for anything in this franchise. And
Yeah.
it's mostly about what timeline or what theory makes the most sense to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's awesome. I think something should remain mysteries.
Yeah.
It's just part of the brand at this point.
Yeah.
So
I mean, one of my favorites. I love David Lynch, the director, and Twin Peaks has always been one of my favorite, you know, series.
Mhm.
And nobody will ever know everything. They
mhm.
just won't.
They won't.
Yeah.
You just have to be content with that, I guess, as a
Yeah.
storyteller. Right.
Some things in a show like that are not meant to be explained ever, and
Right.
you gotta be like, that was so weird.
Mhm.
Why? What? The way that somebody delivered this one word.
Yeah.
You know, like that meant something. David Lynch gonna put out like a book that explains every little bit? Like, no.
No.
Yeah, no.
That's the fun of it.
Yeah. And you might have heard something in a performance and then said like, do that again, but put an emphasis on this.
Ooh.
That was eerie.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
then it might pay off.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
It reminds me of like Cassie's line in Security Breach where you blurt out a section at the end of
Mhm.
like, follow instructions.
Right.
Anyways, if you could change anything about Security Breach, what would you change? Like
Oh.
whether it's story, environment, or anything.
You know, it's funny because it's like, it's tough to look backwards, you know.
When you're looking forward probably so much right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Where if you were able to go back and remake it, okay, it's like Star Wars, the special editions.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the story there being, oh, George wanted different effects. George wanted these things to look different.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went and did a pass on the first 3 movies of adding so much additional CG, putting cutscenes back in, like adding Jabba,
getting
and all
rid
this
of the
stuff.
puppets, right?
Right. And
Didn't Yoda go from a puppet to not a puppet? Am I misremembering?
still a puppet, but
Still a
I
puppet,
think there
yeah.
was some tweaks right there.
Right.
I don't remember exactly. But there was so much stuff that got added where it didn't feel like Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, well, this isn't the movie I remember watching
Exactly.
over and
Right.
over and over again.
So it's hard to look back,
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Because then you could change something that somebody fell in love with.
Right.
And
Can't
then they're
mess-
like,
can't
why
mess with
would
the
you
past.
change that one thing that was my favorite rock?
Exactly.
You covered up
Right.
that rock. Oh, I love
Especially
that
me, I'm
rock.
like, why'd you get rid of that sticky note
Yeah,
in the
right.
corner over there?
Yeah.
I loved that sticky note.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
when they replaced the Max Rebo band in Jedi. With, with that song. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I loved that.
Yeah.
Like, those are some of my favorite figures, when I was
Exactly.
little. It's like, so you can't make everyone happy. And then when you go back and change things like that, you don't know what the ripple effect's going to be.
Right. I agree. I agree with that. Do you think we'll ever get another game involving the Pizzaplex? Like, are you content with the Pizzaplex era being done with Ruin? Like, do you ever think we'll see the Pizzaplex in a functional state ever again?
I would say that no location is off limits, right?
Okay.
Everything in the universe, everything in Scott's universe could be revisited
Right.
at some point. There, not everything's answered. When do you see it?
Not everything's answered in Scott's games, you're saying.
All of
Freddy's,
all of
FNAF
Freddy's,
games, yeah.
it's like there's so much stuff that you could go back and look into.
Right.
I really want to see the FNAF 1 bathroom. What's
Right.
that bathroom look like? I don't
Right.
know. Like, right?
Right.
It's like,
So basically anything's possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
You're
rule
not
out,
like restricted to certain areas,
I wouldn't rule out anything.
Yeah.
Love to see the exterior.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
What's
That'd be
the
cool.
exterior look like? Where is it located?
Right.
What's the town?
Exactly. Is
And
it
there's so
Hurricane
much.
Utah?
Who knows
Who
where
knows
it is?
where it is?
Right?
Wild.
You just there's so many unanswered questions. So I wouldn't limit anything.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that answer. That's
Yeah.
a good answer.
Because then, as soon as you're like, oh yeah, we're never going to a pizza place again. It's like, hey, guess what? There's this really great idea.
Yeah.
And everybody's super
Right.
jazzed about
Right.
it. It's like,
Right. I like that you keep your options open.
oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't close any of those doors.
So, Ruin.
Yeah.
Ruin was awesome. I
Oh,
think the
thank you.
community agrees that like Ruin was such a great game. And in the interview you did with Dawko, Ray McCaffrey, Steel
Yeah,
Studios, said that there were already, this was before Security Breach came out. He said
Yeah.
that there were already plans for a DLC before the game came out.
Yes.
So I guess the question is there a world where we get Security Breach without Ruin? Or did you always know that you would need Ruin to tell more of the story?
Ruin specifically evolved.
Okay.
But we always knew that the story didn't end there.
Right. You always knew you'd need some DLC.
Wanted to do DLC.
So did you have the name Ruin when you were before Security Breach came out, or was that a
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did not have the name. And then I want to say that was another one where it was like playing with names, and then
Scott?
I think Scott
No
I think it
way.
was Scott that was started calling it Ruin, and we're like, oh, that's great,
Wow.
then it's Ruin.
That's
right?
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I think we can all agree that Ruin was a lot scarier. Like you were talking about earlier, it's like completely the opposite of Security Breach. Like Security
Yeah.
Breach, bright and fun. Ruin, not so bright and fun.
Yeah, they're supposed to pair like that.
Right. And it was very like linear. It's more of a linear experience.
Yeah.
Especially, I love the scene between Roxy and Cassie at the end.
Oh.
That was wild. What was the main goal you wanted to accomplish with Ruin?
Really one of the biggest goals with Ruin was to show the decay.
Okay.
Right. It was like, we want to see it during the functional phase when people would like love to go there. It's like,
Right.
if that was a real place, I want to go there.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely would love to go there.
Oh my gosh, me too. Yes.
It's like, I would go to El Chips like twice during my trip, and then I would go down to, Monty Golf and play putt-putt,
Literally.
Absolutely. I wouldn't spend any time in the Mazer-sized gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I imagine the smells.
You don't want to eat pizza while you work
Yeah.
out. Yeah. No.
You imagine the sweat
Right.
on top of like the melted cheese and like all the food. That's so
Right.
gross.
Right.
But that really was meant to be, here's the decayed version.
Okay. So that was the main goal. Just show that it's completely the opposite.
Yes, absolutely.
With Ruin being a lot scarier, I guess, than Security Breach, do you enjoy making more horror, scary type games or more fun games like Help Wanted 2?
I like doing a mix.
Okay.
It's like when it comes to like horror, like I love horror.
Right.
I'm never going to make anything that's like over the top bloody or,
Because I feel like you are really good at like comedic stuff. Like I feel like you had a blast with Help Wanted 2.
Yeah, blast with Help Wanted 2.
But yeah, it's a mix.
And Scott's always had that mix.
Right.
Right. Phone Guy is funny.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
The writing is really funny.
It's
and
really
then
good.
The way he evolves every night, it's like, it's funny. It's a nice dark comedy.
Yeah.
Really.
It is. And that's kind of what Helpy is. Like kind of dark
Helpy
humor a
absolutely
little
is.
bit. Yeah.
Really early on, even when we were working on Fly Hunter, we had coined this term for like our style of games, the things we wanted to make as being grimsicle.
Okay.
It's like we wanted them to be funny and be dark.
Yeah.
And we applied that to everything we had done early on.
Okay.
And that when Freddy's came along, it just fit exactly
It fits so well.
the tone.
That's kind
that
of
we
exactly
wanted.
like the tone of the previous FNAF games that's got made. Yeah.
And it's like, I love horror, but it's, I studied theater in college and educational theater, children's theater, and want to challenge kids. And horror is a great way to challenge and get over fears.
Right.
You don't want it to be like Splatterhouse. I mean, even the Splatterhouse is awesome.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, a lot of people said that, like, I think even the director of the FNAF movie said that the FNAF movie is like for like beginner horror fans.
Yeah. Emma Tammy.
Emma Tammy, yes.
Yeah.
A question that I really want to know the answer to, that I think is super interesting, is in Ruin, you can get Chica's voice box by beating Chica's feeding frenzy.
Yeah.
And then you can give that voice box.
Well, it's a voice box. Now it's called a voice box officially. We're going to go back and change the asset.
Okay.
I can't believe we missed that one.
I know. What the heck?
It's too perfect.
That's actually, wow.
It should be a voice box.
It should be a voice box. And you can give that voice box back to Chica.
Yeah.
And that kind of left everyone wondering, was there supposed to be an ending to Ruin or even Security Breach where we fixed the Glamrock animatronics?
Well, you can play it where you do.
You can play Ruin?
You're helping them all. Like
in Ruin.
When you compare like Gregory to Cassie is like she's like the healer, repairs. She helps. Her natural inclination is to help the animatronics.
Yes. I could see Chica. I could see Roxy. Yeah. Freddy, she just kind of was
too far gone.
That's too far gone.
Too far gone.
Yeah.
But
Monty
too far.
So that doesn't really.
Yeah, Monty's too far gone. But
yeah.
But Chica and Roxy, she's able to.
Right.
It's like, why does she put herself in so much danger for her friend?
Interesting.
So
there wasn't supposed to be like a different ending that got cut. It's just that's kind of how she is.
It was the payoff. I mean, it was really like the payoff for the player.
Yeah.
Is to be like, we see Chica like first. She's one of the first ones that we see wandering around.
Right.
And although Cassie's like initially horrified, she takes a moment and she says, oh, what happened to you? And she feels bad for her.
She's sympathetic.
Yeah. They're all to be pitied. They've just been wandering around in this place for how long?
You're right. How long? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. For how long?
Yeah, for how long? I didn't think about it like that.
So hopefully people that did it then felt like getting that payoff of Chica speaking again.
It did feel good.
Yeah. After Gregory stripped it out.
Exactly. Exactly.
We found another one and we put it in.
Interesting.
We fixed her.
Interesting. Was like that one of the last things that you added to Ruin, or was that always like you always wanted that?
That was there.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was there from pretty early.
Okay. And I feel like if the environments were big in Security Breach, they were like 10 times bigger in Ruin. Like there's so many things because there's like literally two separate realities that you can see. Do you have like a favorite part of Ruin? Favorite area of the game?
Oh, a favorite area of Ruin. I mean, I love that we did the abandoned log ride.
Oh my gosh. That was so
Foxy's
cool.
log ride.
Yes.
Like, that was one of those. No, there were other like attractions. And even when you look at, the initial launch of Security Breach, it's like there's boarded up sides.
Yes.
And you can't get back in there.
Right.
Well, there was something. Yeah. We've got
So
a
cool.
longshoreman Foxy that's like out there in the kids' cove, play area.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, but Foxy didn't have a ride?
Yeah.
Like, Foxy had a ride.
Oh.
You just didn't see it yet.
Oh, that's
and that was
so cool.
and that was like, oh, we're gonna get to show people the log ride.
Yeah, I love the set dressing with the staff bots and like them like pulling ropes and like doing all that stuff. It's so funny. It was so good.
Yeah, when those got posed, I saw those in a review and just was laughing.
Oh,
I was
it's
like,
perfect.
That's final.
That
Leave
is
that
like
in.
the peak of like environmental storytelling.
Yeah.
Like that is so perfect.
Yeah. There was one funny one. It's just it got removed, but somebody had dressed so many staff bots into one scene that it wouldn't run. There was just this giant
the game wouldn't
pile,
run,
like this giant pile of staff bots.
Oh
and it
my
was just
gosh.
like, no, we cannot have
Right.
this many staff bots here.
Right. It's like the
killing
sewers in Security
performance.
Breach. They're everywhere.
They are.
They're like shish kebabbed.
Yeah,
in
and
some
there's
parts.
like bits of them, and
Yes.
this one was like, oh no, the full bottle out there over and over and over again to the point where it's like, oh no, come on.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I
too many.
love that.
It was funny.
Another big question that I wanted to ask: the mixes machine in Ruin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna ask like what does mixes stand for because I know that's a big secret, but I've noticed, and I feel like people in the community have noticed that it looks a lot like the
Whopper.
The Whopper machine from the 1983 movie War Games.
Yeah.
Was this intentional? And how often when creating your games do you reference back to like movies from your past?
There's always good reference in other movies and television or images of the time periods that you're looking at. That is deliberately supposed to be an older machine. So the Whopper being like a good example of like, hey, here's a supercomputer, right?
But it's old.
Before computers are like this big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh God, I feel like that was a big drop.
It's like, this is not that's not a modern computer.
No, it's not.
Like, the model just is not a modern computer.
No, it's not. It's
Right.
very old.
It looks old.
Right. It does.
Looks old.
It does. And we'll leave it. We'll leave that question there. I love that.
Yeah.
So the next question in Ruin, this is just for me. I've always kind of wondered this. Eclipse says, "Happy birthday." Is that a reference to Frosty the Snowman?
You can thank Brian Fairmouth for that.
Okay.
I think it might have been in the session we were recording with Kellen too, and it was like, oh, we should have him do happy birthday like
The Frosty
the
the No
Snowman.
way, that was right? Oh,
Yes,
let's
it was.
go.
That's absolutely right.
Let's
and
go.
It was like, oh, that's so good. And like when Kellen did it, it's so perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And it makes sense because Roxy talks about her birthday later.
Yeah.
So like in every way, it's so perfect.
And it's, and we see the Eclipse, it's the first words out of Eclipse's mouth.
Literally.
And it doesn't sound like sun and it doesn't sound like moon.
And I love the little thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's so good.
That one.
So good. I love that section.
Yeah,
that's so good. Help Wanted 2. Help Wanted 2. Love that game. Also, Help Wanted 2 available on MetaQuest right now. Link is in the description if you want to go check it out.
That was 2 days ago.
I know. When they see this,
yeah.
When they see this, it's going to be a while, but
it's
maybe
like
a couple
it'll
weeks.
be like a week.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Yeah, it's like 2 weeks.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, go check it out. Link in the description. It's a great game. You should play it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I don't know what day it is.
Me neither. Me neither. So before FNAF, Steel was mostly a VR studio, right? For the most part.
Yeah, after Fly Hunter.
Now that you have so many more people, I feel like you were able to do a lot more with this VR game. Like, what was it like having such a big team now with a new VR game?
We ran things completely different than anything else we had done after this point. Yeah. What we did was we made this God, after we heard like, hey, we're gonna do a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
We got, worked it out with Scott. Mm-hmm. Here's the idea. This is what we're gonna do. I spent like a weekend coming up with, here's a list of games we didn't use the first time around. Here's stuff we'd like to do. Here's material we didn't hit before.
Right.
Characters we hadn't seen. Characters we'd like to see more of. just all that. And I think I put a bunch of that together in like the first like weekend and came up with like doc number 1, and then had started writing dialogue and everything for, interactions with characters you might hear in the background and stuff, places. There's a lot of stuff that was unused that was really pretty cool too.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, there's a lot of mini games that we didn't finish. We didn't do as well.
Oh, we'll talk about that later too.
But someday maybe those come back, right? Put things like on hold, and then hey, what's the reception of these things? Maybe we'll do more of those later, or whatever.
Right.
But we took the entire studio for the most part, and we broke everybody into pods.
Okay.
And so we had all these pods. They all named themselves.
Oh.
It was like the Anxious Axolotls was one of the groups.
Oh,
and all these cute little
that.
names, and everybody had these little themes and did their own little logos and stuff. It was really cute.
Oh.
There was a designer, some sets people, an engineer, and then a QA person. We put QA in from the beginning, which was very different for us as well. So they got to work with each of these groups, and it was. And we were kicking them off on, here are your set of mini games, and we would give them one sheets. So Brian, me, and then Marlena is one of our lead designers as well. And so the three of us would then like take ownership over certain pods, and all three of us would meet and review, and then we'd work in an isolation there was so much going on,
right?
And we were doing it in a very short timeline,
right? Can you say how long that game took to make?
Within a year.
Within a year.
Within the year.
Within the year. That's crazy.
It was within the year. I can safely say that within the year. Yeah. From the point in which we put down the first, it was a couple months from, here's my first doc. What do we think of these? Working with Scott, and then, hey, like, is this what we want to do? We want to do this? This is where we're headed? Okay, great.
Wow.
And then we're all in agreement, and we pull everybody on, split into these pods, and we handed them each we gave them each these one sheets of what these games were.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of ownership that they had over how things were going to be done. So it wasn't like 100% detailed.
Right.
And then we spent time with them, building up all these games. So
that's awesome.
Very unique.
I feel like Help Wanted 2 was a lot of fun. Like, I feel like you had a blast making that game. Do you have like a favorite mini game?
Oh God. One of the mini games, and playing over and over and over and over, like new build, stay up late, play through. QA's been playing all day. Everybody's looking for everything. It's like, just make sure everything is like as tight as we can, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I never got tired of playing any of the food prep games.
Oh my gosh.
And
I know people have been begging for like an endless mode of food prep. That would be awesome.
Yes.
Maybe one day.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Food prep was so much fun because the thing is, when I was in high school, I worked in concessions.
Yeah, I worked at Chipotle. Like,
you worked at Chipotle.
L Chips is literally my life. So
I worked in movie theater, and so in between threading films, like as a projectionist and usher.
Wow.
Then here's the rush. This is how old I am during the release of Jurassic Park, for example.
Oh wow. Okay.
Just crowds and crowds, and just doing concessions and trying to hit all the orders right, and people coming up with the dumbest requests.
Yeah.
And then your shoes when you get home smelling like butter and leaving them outside because they just reek. It's like they smell like, artificial butter, and it's just food everywhere, and like the cage behind, and all the storage and the cups and everything. And, that stuff really, really still speaks to me.
Oh, for sure.
Unless you've done it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're working in service.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
It's hard. It can be really
super hard. And you're dealing with a bunch of different personalities. Yeah. And I feel like with the staff bots are a great example of like those customers of that, like, why aren't you going faster?
Yeah.
I've been waiting all day.
I have my film starting.
Exactly.
Like, my show's starting.
Exactly.
It's like, hurry up.
Exactly.
It's like, maybe come in earlier.
I feel like you would have said the Helpy First Aid mini game. Was that a lot of fun to make?
That was a lot of fun to make too.
It was kind of a reimagining of like the FNAF 6 gameplay. I feel like it's safe to say. And it's like, I feel like I can see the meeting in my head where you were like, oh, what if Helpy was there? And like, it was like a medical thing, and like, you can't make him scream. You have to make him stop screaming. And it's like, yeah. What was that like, making that mini game?
That was a funny one. I remember very specifically the original screams.
Really?
And like the original Helpy scream.
Was it yours?
No, that one wasn't me. It was it was like this digital noise. It was our sound designer was working on those, and I was like, no, it has to sound worse. No, it really needs to sound worse. Like you really don't want it to be this robot to be in pain.
Yeah.
It's got to sound like just grating. Like,
Right.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
And every time it happens, you're like, ah.
You nailed it. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
Marcy, our sound designer, nailed it.
Gosh.
It was so much fun.
And the animatronics crawling through the vents.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I feel like the animations in Help Wanted 2 are like unbelievable.
Our animation team they were just stellar.
I think of like the Ennard walking animation. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's
oh my
incredible.
God. That one was really, really good.
What's his name? Bon flying at you. So good.
The Biddy Babs crawling through that one freaks the hell out of people. It's so good.
Grabbing the mini arenas and just chucking them across the room. Oh my gosh. It's incredible. That game's so good.
That one was a lot of fun. I love. It was really hard. It was really hard to get all those interactions in because they're all randomized, right?
Yeah,
within certain sets.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I need to test this one. Like, oh, I gotta do the brain. I gotta do the brain.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened for me 10 times in a row. It's like, oh, randomly I'm not getting that one and I want to test
it's funny
all of
because
the variants.
When I was trying to do B-roll for my video, I was like, I need the brain because I wanted to look at the helpy brain chip. And I was like, oh my gosh, please give me that chip because it wasn't showing up.
There's so many variations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's also another thing. It's like Help Wanted 2 is so replayable. Like,
good.
And I love the, like, you enter a minigame for the first time, you get a certain speech, you enter it again, and Freddy's like, you're back. Yeah. It's like, it's perfect.
That was actually one of our goals for the game. It was one of our pillars, was we wanted things to be as replayable as we could.
Yeah.
So
I feel like
so you didn't just know, oh, it's, and when I get into the scene, it's left, right, and then I'm done. It's like, once you know the pattern, you're fine, I don't know what foods I'm gonna get.
Exactly.
I don't know what all the music beats that I'm gonna have to match with like DJ. That was one of our big goals, and I think we hit that. I think
for
we're
sure.
happy about that.
Oh, for sure. One of the my favorite moments in Help Wanted 2 is probably one of my favorite moments in the entire FNAF franchise was Princess Quest 4. Being able to go inside Princess Quest was unreal. I think everyone can agree that that was a crazy moment. What was it like conceptualizing that and then getting in the headset for the first time and experiencing it?
The whole concept, and I remember when I was kind of pitching it internally, and people were like, "What?" I was like,
"Really?
No, just imagine, just imagine if it's something you've never seen in VR. Like, what's the thing we want to see is." There's some unresolved issues with Princess Quest.
Yes.
Like, we beat the game.
Yes.
But there's more. And then actually going into first person and seeing the princess there walking around as like a 2D sprite, Oh, and we're controlling it.
Yeah, and suddenly you see yourself in the room.
And you see yourself, and it's like that being, a huge moment for, a goal that you're being led towards.
Yes.
Yes.
So was that pitched way early on in development, or was that was the game basically built around that? Did you always know that was going to be?
It was there early.
It was there early.
It was there early.
Yeah.
I want to say in the original docs of here's all the mini games, that one wasn't on that. It came a little bit after. Okay. It was one of the last types.
Yeah.
Game type. It's like, I don't even remember how it popped in.
Yeah.
But there's this image that we had back on Help Wanted 1, which I'd love to share the image. Maybe we post it somewhere.
Maybe. That'd be great.
It's Jenny made this image of a giant glitch trap in this swirly purple space.
Really?
With Vanny in its hand. Ooh. This little tiny Vanny.
Yeah.
And we always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, we want to do, because scale in VR is so amazing.
Oh my gosh.
We always wanted to do
DJ Music Man is a great example of that.
Right.
Yeah.
We always wanted to do, we're in this glitch world space. And then we're in the palm of glitch trap, and it's like, and there's like, we do this Vanny thing. It's like, we're really early on. And it was when we had started Security Breach. We're like, it'd be so cool to do that. And so I had that in my head for, when we were talking about endings and resolutions for, instead of having a giant Vanny,
Yeah.
turning around and being, this is, the end of Glitch Trap.
Yeah. So it is the end of Glitch Trap. Squished. Gone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Speaking of Princess Quest 4, an interesting question is something I haven't seen anyone really talking about. I mean, I'm sure someone has. Don't hate me. But the old man, I'll just call him the old man.
Yeah.
At the beginning, his dialogue has some grammatical errors.
Yes.
Is that on purpose?
Yes.
Is it more of an inside
exactly
joke?
what I wanted to say.
Interesting.
Saying exactly the wording that I wanted to use.
Interesting.
Some of that goes back to what era. What era are certain things from? Do you remember old NES games in like poor translations? You play the original Zelda?
No.
Oh, the phrase, you walk into a room and there's an old man with a sword. Mm-hmm. Master using it and you can have this. And it's like, what? It's like, wait, what?
Oh
it's like,
my gosh.
Oh, I have to get to a certain level. I've got to get enough hearts and then he'll give me the new sword. It's like, but you have no idea what it's talking about.
Yeah.
The secret is in the eye of Goma. It's like, what in the world are you talking about?
And so that's like a callback, like riffing on that a little bit.
Yeah, I've always loved that, like kind of broken English translations of like early NES games.
Yeah, that's a satisfying answer. I think that's really funny.
Those were good, and that's how I felt that video game character would speak.
Right.
Because there's little bits of Zelda in Princess Quest. It's very much our fantasy.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. Speaking about mini games,
yes.
Were there any cut mini games in Help Wanted 2? And also, we have beef because there was no Monty, really. I'm telling you, a Monty Golf, putt style in VR would be so cool. Yeah. So, any cut games?
We talked about Monty Golf specifically, and we felt that we had accomplished what we wanted with Monty Golf and the courses in the flat mode. We would just be repeating it.
You mean in Security Breach?
In Security Breach, in our flat mode, right? And so that was a flat game.
Interesting.
And there's a lot of if you go and make a putt VR title, it takes a lot of work just to do that.
Oh, I bet.
That's a whole different set of mechanics.
Yeah.
And when given like the choice of what we had, I wanted bowling. Yeah. Which is tricky.
I think bowling was great.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just make VR bowling.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that's all you need.
Yes.
It's like, that's a standalone.
Yes.
It's like, I wanted to put more into bowling than to also do golf,
right?
To the detriment of Monty,
right?
But yeah, there are other games that we had discussed, and other mini games that I want to say didn't make the cut, or just didn't fit for the time,
right?
For now.
Okay.
Someday we might go back and do some of the other ones. Monty is in the game.
Oh, he is, yeah.
His model's there.
He's models there. You can,
so you can see
he's doing
him.
like a little pose like this.
We wanted people to at least be able to see Monty.
One of my favorite questions to ask people, because I love like the different answers that it can get. I asked Atreyu this question, the regular sauce, about his cosplays on an interview I did on my channel. How do you know when a project is done? Is it the deadlines that usually stop you, or are you like typically satisfied by the end of a project?
That's a funny one. I think that's one of those general like questions about artists.
Yes.
In any type of art, right? In doing your YouTube videos.
Right.
There's a point in which you have to be done.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Otherwise you could nitpick and go, hey, it's great. Not it's good enough, but it's like, it's great. It's like, oh, but it could be a little bit better. Like my whole career in everything, like on stage, doing film, doing, animation, everything, games, there's always that person that's trying to sneak something in the last minute. And you're like, look, if this gets in, it could break everything else. So things are solid. We're at a good spot.
Yeah.
It is. We're happy with it.
Yeah.
Let's not push and break anything, and then start ramping people off, which is a good way to wind down and stop.
Yes. I feel like it's a mix of like feeling content with it, but also like we have a deadline. We have to have this game come out eventually. That's how I feel about my videos. Like the video has to come out, but also I feel most of the time content with what it is. Yeah. So yeah.
And then you hear the fans.
Oh yeah.
Like, where is this? Where is this? Where is this?
Yes.
And it's like, there's something coming. There's something coming. We can't talk about it.
Really?
There's a surprise coming. The lightning in a bottle. I love that Scott would do like just do the drop.
Yes. Especially FNAF 6.
Sister location. Oh, what? Wait. Oh, yes. I saw a trailer for that at one point, but today?
Exactly. Exactly. And he's very like in interviews. He's in an interview, the doco interview. He just says like, if it's done, it's done. Like, why not just release it?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
I love that he does that, and that that's his feeling.
Right. Yes.
It's like it lines up with us really well.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things when I was working in featuring when we were at Pixar. That internally it's like Lightning McQueen. Right?
Of course,
McQueen was named after one of our animators. And,
no way.
Yeah, and Glenn he had this saying that he would talk about is like every one of the films that we would work on was lightning in a bottle. And it's like we can't tell our families, we can't tell anybody what we're working on for years. Yeah, and it's like we've got this. Here we've got magic. We've got this bottle. And someday we're gonna release it, and everybody's gonna be surprised, and this big exciting. Oh my God, we had no idea what to expect.
Are you feeling that right now in your life? That lightning in a bottle feeling right now?
Pretty much with all our releases. Interesting. Everything that we've done in FNAF, in Scott's world, everything that we've done together, it is that excitement of we're gonna press launch.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Here it is.
Yeah. I bet that was fun with Help Wanted too.
Yeah. And then we get to watch people react.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
I think we've told you this one, but we had like a bunch of people on Discord, and we had you streaming when we all shared on there, and we were like, we got to see John's reactions.
Oh my gosh.
And we watched Daco. We watched everyone's reactions.
Just watching everyone's reactions. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And it was so much fun.
Oh, I bet.
To see, the community reacting to and noticing and responding to the stuff we had been working on.
Yeah. Do you just take like
secret for so long?
Yeah. Do you just take like a couple days off to just watch stuff, or
no,
or a day? Or no.
Because there will always be like we launch, and then someone noticed something. Oh, we didn't catch that.
Oh,
or hey, we have the next thing on deck. Yeah. And we try to do some downtime. Yeah. But there's kind of always something. As soon as you launch, we're still QAing. Yeah. And we're still checking builds, and we're making sure that everything's okay. Especially with like simultaneous launches. Yeah. There's a lot that could go wrong.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. How do you feel about audience feedback? Like specifically when it comes to the story you're telling, does audience feedback ever persuade you to do differently, or do you usually stick to what you have?
So I'll answer one outside of story.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Audience feedback from Help Wanted 1. One of the things that we got, nobody would ever know, right? But one of the bits of feedback that we were seeing or we were experiencing was, it's too scary.
Really?
It's too scary. This is too intense. This is too scary.
Really?
Yeah. And like, we would see it and we laugh, and we had so much fun with like, hey, put your mom in the headset and show your dad and show your friends, and oh my God, everybody's freaking out. Hey, let's bring in someone new, watch, and then we'll all hide behind the mirror, not behind the mirror. We weren't doing the one-way glass. But it was like, we would see somebody with the headset on, they couldn't see us, watching them experience. And then, you see somebody go, put the headset on, and there's Plush Trap at the end of the hall, and they're like, yeah, nope, I'm done. I'm done. Right.
That one's terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you'd experience people responding to different things. Yeah. We had this one woman that was a teacher at a art school. She's like, none of this jump scares don't scare me. Oh. And then she did the Chica, repair. And when the roaches came out, she was like, oh my God, no. It's like, that was the thing that got her,
Yeah,
right?
I know that's something that MatPat, like that got MatPat. Like
Yeah.
the roaches freaked him out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
it's weird because that doesn't affect me. I think it's some sort of like phobia, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't
people
know.
have reactions to different things.
Right.
So the feedback that we had from Help 101 being, it's too intense, VR is really scary.
Yeah.
Evan and I had been talking, we were talking ever since that came out about like...
For them, who's Evan?
Oh, so Evan is our other creative director.
Okay.
You see him all over in our credits and everything. And he's been one of like, I want to say one of our original hires, probably in like the first 5 people or something that we had in the studio. He was an animator and he was our animation lead for a long time. And then we were working on game designs together. We started Security Breach together.
Oh wow!
Most projects we've started, in the creative room, discussing things. And Evan's great. You really like him. So Evan and I had been discussing, well, it's so scary. How do we curb that? And then we brought Brian into it and Marlena. When we were working on Help Wanted 2, and we came up with a system of how many screaming children. When we did on my documents of here's all of the game types, it's like this is a 4 screaming kid. This is a 1 screaming kid.
That's funny.
Is the 3 crying child. This is the 3 crying child.
Gosh. It's like a rating system.
Child.
Yeah.
And we use the image of crying child on those, to just mark them for ourselves.
That's wild.
Yeah. And say like, oh, well, maybe the first time we do this, we have a mode that's less intense, but then we build the intensity. So like when you're doing a later music game or food prep,
right?
We build on it. So we have people that can experience it and have fun, and then not go, oh, I can't. It's just the whole thing's too intense,
right?
But we want to have the intensity, and we want to have like the. I'm not going to get screamed at the whole time, am I? Like, well, you will maybe, but you can still have fun, right? You can still have fun with it,
right?
And so that was one of the things we were playing with when it came to part 2.
It's interesting that you got flack for Help Wanted being too scary. And then like, I feel like people hear that and will be like, but we missed the scary. Like we want it to be scary again. It's not scary anymore. But I feel like people need to understand that there needs to be like a balance. Yeah. Like this franchise is kind of for everyone. It's not just kids. It's not just adults. Right. Like it's about finding that balance. And I think Help Wanted 2 does find a good balance of that. Like the carousel. Yeah. Like that's a scary one, you know? Yeah. I feel like you found a good balance with that. So I feel like that's important to say.
That was another one of our pillars. Yeah. We wanted it to have both. Yeah. We want the super scary mix, like when you see Funtime Freddy come up and stand next to you reaching out and you're trying to do the levers, people freak out. Yeah. It's like I freaked out. Right. And it's like when we did our PAX demo, it's like, well, do you want to play Bonkabon? Which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, super fun.
It's super fun. You get jump scared if you do really badly. Yeah. Yeah. Or do you want to do Funtime Freddy? And people that came in and they were like, I want to do Funtime Freddy. Yeah. Right? I want to do that. Yeah. And it's like, there you go.
I went right to Carousel.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Carousel.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to do Carousel.
So fun. So a big part of my job as a FNAF theorist is like looking and deciding if a detail is intentional or not. Is it like, oh, was this put here for a purpose, for a storytelling purpose? Or was this just like, oh, this would be funny if we put this here, if you know what I mean? Like, how do you find a balance between an intended lore detail and something that's just there as like a fun Easter egg? Like, how much do you think about how fans will perceive something in a game like that?
I'd say there are certain things that from the beginning, like when it comes from script and when we're intending on like a specific scene or encounter or a location, this needs to be there. This needs to be there. Here are these details we have to have. Right. And we have 90 people in the studio and a lot of people working on and owning their own portions of that. Yeah. Everything gets reviewed. So if somebody adds a thing in the corner somewhere, we'll look at and review, walk around the locations, fly around, clip through the walls and everything and look at things. We're like, oh, this over here, that sends the wrong message. So, that somebody might put something in and be like, oh, I thought it'd be cool if, and we're like, hold on.
Right.
No, that
Right.
can't
It could be
here.
interpreted some way different way. Yes.
And
So
we really want to avoid those like misleads.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's good to know, I guess.
Yeah.
That you really do put a lot of thought into that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as someone who like that's what I look for. It's really nice.
And we also don't want to stifle the team's creativity, and say like, oh, that pixel.
Right.
Oh no, the pixel needs to be to the left.
It's the color purple, and the purple is associated with this.
Right.
And it's like
there's color theory that's tricky.
You can't do purple, you can't do green, you can't do like there's a lot.
And that one does come up a lot where colors
yes.
are dressed in locations, or it's like, well, can you change this to this color because it gives the wrong it gives the wrong impression.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that happening.
Yeah. So there's a lot of calculated choices. Every choice is calculated. Somebody is dressing a thing. Mm-hmm. Somebody is animating a character. And it's our job, like everyone in the studio, to catch the things that might point someone in the wrong direction.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. So like as someone who theorizes about the franchise, because this channel is mostly about that.
Yeah.
Do you have any constructive criticism for people who theorize about FNAF? Like, is there anything you want to say to like the theory community, I guess?
I love watching the YouTubers. I read the Reddits, and I love people's theories. I love their thoughts. I love their drawings. I love everything everybody's doing.
Right.
It's fantastic.
It's crazy.
It's such an amazing community. Mm-hmm. I would suggest that people that might get incensed or a little bit adamant about their point of view, that this is the only correct answer. It has to be this. And then they push other people down, or they're so opinionated and they can't change their minds or anything, that people need to be a little more malleable. They need to be a little bit more open to other people's theories.
For sure.
I think you're really good at that. I do. I think you're really, really good at that.
Thanks. I did not tell him to say any of this, by the way. He's saying it on his own.
I've heard people say like, oh, and this is this way, and we know that for a fact.
Yes.
And it's like, when I'm watching it, I can't comment because we don't comment openly. I want to be like, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a fact? How sure are you about that? Right.
It's and I think I fell into that trap sometimes before, in like my way early theories of being like, no, I really think this is what this is, and it's like, well, I guess there's a difference.
You get strongly
right. You get caught in a trap when you start saying it's confirmed that blah blah blah.
You can't fight this. This is the correct answer, and I know it. I was the first one to do it. It's like when people get really when people can get a little toxic. And I think a lot of people, in really nice ways, like you'll see on Reddit, like you look at other Reddit threads and other, IPs or whatever, and there's some people that get really, really toxic.
Yeah.
I think that the Freddy's community really, I think that they love it so much that someone will step up and say, hey, let's not treat somebody that way. And you see people in comments say like, everybody's entitled to their opinion or whatever. And it's really nice to see that and people protecting each other.
Right. Yeah.
It's just occasionally you can get some people that are like, no, I'm absolutely 1,000% sure.
Yeah.
And you're never going to convince me of anything else. It's like, enjoy.
Right.
Enjoy it.
Right. It's fun to theorize.
Yeah.
Like that's basically it.
Yeah. Even if there's a theory that's like super like
out
nuts.
there. Yeah.
And you're like, but that was fun.
Right. Like,
right. It might be totally wrong. Yeah. That was fun.
My viewers will know that I just posted a video about how I like tried making a theory about how the kid from FNAF 4 mini games is like the most important kid ever. And it's like, but I don't think that's the case. It's like, you can make a theory out of anything. You can make anything really make sense.
Right.
But yeah, I think the community needed to hear that. So I appreciate you saying that.
I think everybody kind of tells each other that a little bit already.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's one of the things I say. I also say like, keep the ideas going.
Yeah.
Because all of the lore videos are so much fun. And it's like right or wrong. It's great to watch people's thought processes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really creative people out there too.
I agree.
It's special. It's special to this community, I think, especially.
Have you ever watched any FNAF speedrunners? And do you ever use
yes.
like do you ever use like the speedrunners videos to figure out, oh, that bug needs to be fixed and that bug needs to be fixed?
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. when Security Breach came out. And then it was like, oh, wait, what? They can do that? No. Oh, wait, they can get up in a corner? There's a seam that's just like a pixel off and somebody hits at the right angle. And then, QA looks through and the guys are finding stuff. And they're like, oh, we saw this video. We'll look into it.
Oh, wow.
And we'll find out what happened there or whatever.
Is there any part of you that just leaves some of the bugs in for the speedrunners? Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because there's some times where we'll see something, we're like, you know what? A normal player isn't going to run into this game-breaking spot.
Exactly.
And the people that are doing the speedruns and having fun with it and trying to find other things.
Including me. I did a lot of speedrunning back in the day of Security Breach, and it's super fun.
And we talked about that. We're like, let's not fix that.
Yeah.
Let's not fix those things. Yeah. If it's something that a person could accidentally fall out of the world.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you know what? If somebody does this exact combination, then the game's broken for them. We don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was fun to watch people come up with these just crazy game breaking paths.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like using Freddy to get through doors that you can't. And the curtain climb. I don't know if you got the curtain climb. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
So funny.
It's so funny. How do you feel about fans digging through the game files? Are you comfortable with that?
They do it. I mean, when I was at Telltale, people were digging through the files.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Finding omitted voice lines. Oh, there's something about this here. And it's just these little treats for people that are digging around and finding interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I don't fault them for finding it.
For sure.
I fault us for cutting certain things or missing them, and it's like, oh, how did this end up in the build?
Yeah.
I forgot the name of it, but one of the craziest, most egregious ones is there was a game that got released, like a AAA title, and there was a folder that got left in where somebody had copied the entire South Park movie. And it shipped with the game.
No way.
Yeah. That was one of those whoa, how'd that happen? You know what? There was a file somewhere and it ended up in the build and people didn't spot it and they didn't pull it out because there's so much material.
That's wild.
And then you send it out to the world and somebody finds it. It's
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, as of right now, there are no publicly announced Steelwool games set to come out.
That's too bad.
I know. Can we expect Steelwool to return in any way? Is there anything you can tease about future FNAF projects?
I would say that Steelwool is going strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fantastic. We have an amazing team of people.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in the industry that is affecting our studio.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some real tragedies out there with other big studios and a lot of small studios across the board. There's a lot of just in entertainment, that we have a good number. We've got 90 people, and we're not letting anyone go, which means we have work for 90 people.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's good, and I think throughout this interview, there's been little things that people will...
Sure, there's stuff.
Yeah, there's stuff. How excited are you about the future of FNAF? And how long do you think FNAF will last?
I'm super excited about the future of FNAF. There was a moment when my daughter was in first grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might have said this before.
Is it about the backpacks?
It's the backpacks.
Yes, you saw the Freddy's backpacks.
There were more Freddy's backpacks on kids than Star Wars.
Yes, I believe you said in the doco interview that FNAF will end when Star Wars does.
Right?
It's that's just what it is.
There are so many people that are grown up with, or even older players that it hits across the board. It was young and old.
Yeah.
There's fans of all ages, which is it's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
That's how I always felt about films and past game projects.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and play Telltale games, the stories are still strong.
Mm-hmm.
They're really good.
Yeah.
All the films that I worked on, animation and stuff, they were great.
Yeah.
FNAF has such a huge fan base.
It's unbelievable.
And people are always gonna be imitating it.
Mm-hmm.
Being inspired by it.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that want to get into games. There's people that want to become YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
They're inspired by all of it, the whole community.
Yeah.
And as it remains healthy and fun and engaging for everyone,
mm-hmm.
I think it's just going to keep going.
Can you believe FNAF is turning 10 this year?
It's crazy.
It's turning 10.
It's so crazy.
Do you have anything planned for the FNAF 10th anniversary, maybe? Or just going to be celebrating at home?
Carrot cake.
Carrot cake.
Carrot cake.
Interesting.
Oh, carrot cake.
Interesting.
That's Cassie's favorite cake.
That is Cassie's favorite cake.
I'm going to get a carrot cake.
You're going to get a carrot cake.
I am going to get a carrot cake.
For the
That's
FNAF
for sure.
10th anniversary.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'll send one to Scott.
Wait, what?
I'll send one to Scott.
Oh,
too.
you'll send one to
I'll
Scott.
send one to Scott too.
Interesting.
I don't know if
Okay.
Scott likes carrot cake.
I'm sure he
I'm going
does.
to ask him.
Scott, comment down below.
Do
you like carrot
What is
cake?
your favorite cake? What's your favorite cake? It's Scott's birthday. It's not mine.
Yeah.
Scott's big birthday. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool.
It's wild.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
wild. Thank you so much for being here. Like
Oh.
this means the world to me. And I hope that I didn't let any of you down. I hope that I did fine. I've never done something like this before, so please be nice to me. But yeah, this was so much fun.
It doesn't seem like it's your first.
Really?
It does not. It does not
I'm
at
just
all.
chilling. But
It does not at all.
it's like I'm talking to a friend. You know, it's very.
I feel like I'm talking to friends.
Oh,
So.
okay, cool. Thanks. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And this was a dream come true. So make sure to subscribe. Go get Help Wanted 2 on Oculus or MetaQuest down below.
Yes.
And yeah, that's about it. Woo!
Woo!
We're done.
Excellent.
That's a wrap.
Sorry.
wait, do that again. Okay, do that again. We got it. Oh, okay, there we go.